Now, when we go back and we look at what happened at the Capitol several years ago, what's the narrative? It was an attack. It was pure violence. It was people acting outside of the scope of a reasonable citizen's responsibility to maintain boundaries. They kicked and screamed and said it was worse than Pearl Harbor. They said it was worse than 9/11. The one thing they did not dare to call it worse than was the Civil War. I know people right now that are being investigated and potentially being charged for being at the Capitol on that day, when it is highly likely they did not commit a crime, they did not do anything of a sort. The lying narrative is these Trump supporters planned and created an insurrection that destroyed the lives of so many Americans. It put lawmakers in danger. They tried to start a coup. The chief architect of this evil was the former president of the United States. Nothing could be further from the truth. Quite frankly, the former president of the United States probably should have fired a whole bunch of the deep staters that did everything they can to destroy his life. By the way, understand this. It's never happened in U.S. history where you unsuccessfully seek to get rid of a president through a bogus impeachment procedure. Only then, a few days before he leaves office, unanimously amongst the Democrats and a few cowardly Republicans, impeach the president of the United States for doing something that in essence he never did. This kind of stuff is evil. The tide has recently turned. I was definitely wrong, at least to a degree, about Kevin McCarthy, because the current Speaker of the House decided that he was going to reveal all of the footage related to the Capitol on that day to one Tucker Carlson, who then, of course, took that footage and did as much analysis as he could. It's very hard to do analysis on 40,000 hours worth of footage, but he did enough to realize that the people, what we would call the honorable people in Washington, making the laws and seeking to make a better life for its citizens, are like their father, the devil. They're liars. They said many things that were not true. Going back to the conversation regarding exculpatory evidence, everybody remembers who this guy is. He was the guy that they put on every single cover page. Jacob Chansley is his name. He is a little mentally challenged. That's a given, okay? We know that. We know he has some issues. We only know that based on the court documents where his defense team mounts a defense based on that, saying, look, he's got some kind of schizophrenia, but while he was in the Capitol, he was made to look like a man who was seeking to cannibalize people. He was a man that was looking to skin people alive and potentially may have been involved in the murder of police officers. When you begin to look at the story of Jacob Chansley, folks, they have exculpatory evidence. The criminal prosecutors have had exculpatory evidence from the beginning. Folks, the people accusing him of this had exculpatory evidence from the beginning. And if you don't believe me, understand that when these records are accessed, when these videos are accessed in the Capitol, there is a record of whoever accessed it, and the people who were the Democrat investigators tied to the January 6th committee watched these very videos. It was exculpatory in nature, and according to the Constitution and according to the rules set forth therein, the January 6th committee and the officers of the court who were seeking to criminally prosecute Jacob, who, by the way, is a naval veteran, they had an obligation to turn that evidence over and to deal with it, yet they did no such thing. Folks, understand that is the definition of pure evil. That is the definition of wickedness. That is the definition of everything that is dark that represents the enemy. When are we going to wake up and recognize this, folks? When are we going to wake up and recognize the kind of lies that continue to be propagated as a direct result of people who are looking to become political beneficiaries of deception at every turn?